Welcome to the Creative Real Estate Mastery Podcast. I am Ken Rossix, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Sub2 Empire. And you can see I am solo once again today. The esteemed founder of Sub2 Empire, Mr. Jeff Kaufman, is a bit under the weather. That seems to be going around lately. So you just have to bear with me once again. So I appreciate that. By the way, Happy New Year, Happy 2025. And I apologize for the shadows. I can clearly see that I'm in shadows here. Let me see if I can. Nope. My camera's not the greatest. As you know, I'm not tech savvy as it relates to all that nonsense. I just like to spout a little knowledge. So appreciate you. Thanks you. So we are on the first podcast for 2025. And so we wanted to take, or at least I wanted to, and since Jeff's not here, I guess he's going to go along with it anyway. Wanted to talk just a little bit about planning, preparation, values, and goals. Okay. So way back when, I've spent a lot of time over the years. Sorry, I'm still trying to play with the lighting on my camera here. I've spent a lot of time over the years in various personal development and things like that. About goal setting and figuring all that stuff out. And I got to tell you, it took a long time before it finally sank into me about the importance of goals and having some clarity around that. Now, we've talked in other podcasts, like we brought this up, like why are you investing in real estate? Like, why are you doing that? That goes along to your personal and business goals. So as we enter the new year here, we thought it would be, or again, I thought it would be good to just talk about and reset goals. Where am I? First of all, at the end of 2024, or even now, like for instance, we usually in the first week or two of 2025, at least I do, I kind of reset things, take a look at 2024, and then set things for 2025 as it relates to my goals. And Jeff and I are actually going to be doing that next week. So don't feel like you have to have it done by January 1st and like you're way behind and all of that sort of thing. Goals, vision, clarity, all that stuff goes around. It's a mindset issue about why am I doing this? It's about getting clear. Why am I doing this? How do I need to do? How do you get things done in a stepwise manner, right? So we are going to start out a little bit. Let's talk about like your values first of all, because I can't do my goals without knowing my core values. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and then we're really going to talk about goals and goal setting and where do you want to be and how do you want to get there, right? That's really what that is. If you bear with me though, I'm actually going to go ahead and put this on the screen. We have a course called Mindset, the Foundation of Success. This is about getting clear, both personally and professionally, right? Both personal and business goals about what are my core values, what am all that. And I'm going to actually show you here as soon as I share my screen. So bear with me. This is the actual worksheet, so to speak, that you will see in there. Okay, this is the actual worksheet that you see in that course, that mindset course. The first thing is to determine your core values. And I do this, I probably need to do again. I usually do this about every 3 or 4 years, because as I get older and I change things, like I retired from the 9 to 5 job in 2018, as many of you know from the podcast. And so I, my values change, right? That it's normal to do that. So I don't do this annually. A lot of people do it annually. You probably should do it annually. It's probably been 3 years since I've done this. I'll probably do it again now that I'm sitting here talking about it, because I like to practice what I preach. So I'll probably do this again. But this is just a little worksheet about figuring out your core values. I know for a fact one of my core values, which comes up over and over and over again, is integrity for me. So I'm positive that will be in here. So this is just a little look at that. But what we really want to work out for today and talk about is goals and sitting around goals. So yesterday we had a coaching call, and I asked the students on the coaching call, like, okay, what are your 2025 goals and business goals, and what do you want to see? And we had them in our head, but we didn't have them written down. Okay, so the first thing I suggested was to write down the goals, right? Get them clear. Because when you take something from your mind, right, and you put it on paper, it becomes more clear for you for whatever reason. It's magical how that happens. And so we want to take those goals and put them on paper. And so that's what this does. And again, this is in the, I'll put it back up there too, so my shameless plugs. This is in this mindset course. It's a $35 course on our store, sub2empire.com store. And you can grab it there or scan the QR code, whatever you want, if you want to do this. So let me come back to where I started, because I spent a lot of money on different programs, and goals and values is always a part of it, regardless of whether it was real estate training, whether it was just straight personal growth training. It all seems to be a part of that. Okay. And so for many years, like, I just had goals in my head. I didn't write them down. And then at the end of there, it was like, okay, I didn't achieve half of that. Like, why wasn't I achieving this? And so then I was like, all right, I'm going to write this stuff down. I'm going to put it on paper. I'm going to put it up. I'm going to put a little more effort into that. And amazingly, right, those goals started to come to fruition. Like, for instance, I had a goal about retiring early, right? And so that was like a 3-year process in order to get in a position to retire out early, like I did. And so when I started writing that stuff down and putting it in front of me, it's like, okay, I need to get from point A to point Z, and how am I going to get there? That's what I use the goals for, right? Goals are a personal thing. Not every single way and every single system. You see this goals workbook here, and we have steps about going through there. Like, that might not work for you. Like, we had to figure out, like Jeff and I, and when Jeff sets goals and goes through that, like, he has a different process than I do. This is just kind of a compilation. What you see here in front of you is kind of a compilation of all this stuff we've learned and what works for us. Again, you need to figure out what works for you. But the number one thing I would say is to make sure that you write down your goals no matter what, right? That's the first thing I would say. And so we're suggesting you use some kind of system. Here's the system we use to do that. And let's talk about BHAGs. Big, hairy, audacious goals, BHAGs. Okay? These are kind of like vision-oriented stuff. These are the big, overarching things you want to do. For instance, I want to retire earlier. I want to retire by 2028. I want to do, and so how are you going to do that? Right? Here are some other examples. I want to do, from a personal perspective, I want to do a triathlon. And I'd be remiss if I didn't make sure, like Mr. Kaufman likes to make sure and point out too, that you need to start with personal goals. What are your personal goals? All right. And then connect that to your business goals. So if a personal goal is to retire out of your 9 to 5 job, then how are you going to connect that to your business, right? For instance, being as a real estate investor. Okay, so I want to get 15 buy and hold properties to replace my monthly cash flow income, right? So you can see how that stuff's starting to connect now. We start with the personal. So one of my personal goals this year, and so here I will scroll down actually. So here's where you kind of can write that down and print these off and write that down. So one of my personal goals this year is to maintain my weight at 160 pounds or less. It's taken me 51 years of my life to get my weight down to 160, and I finally achieved that last year. When I started 2024, on January 1st, 2024, my weight was almost 172 pounds. Interestingly enough, and that was the most I had weighed in several years, and I'm not quite sure why that was. But on January 1st, 2025, my weight was 159 pounds. Okay, so I have a personal goal of maintaining that. Okay, that's not related to business. That's related to me personally. Okay, I have another personal goal of reading at least an hour every day. Sometimes I make that, sometimes I don't. But those are some personal goals. And I try to take that, right? And so then let's talk about a business goal I might have. So one of the business goals around Step 2 Empire in our coaching program here, a business goal we might have would be to have consistently have 25 students in our program, right? So, when you do a coaching program, students come and go. We've actually had many students over the last couple months come into the program, but they're not always participating in the weekly coaching calls and all that sort of thing, despite our best communication efforts to do all that. So we want to get more coaching students into the program on a consistent basis and have more people on the coaching calls. So that's kind of a business goal. Another goal that I have personally too is to replace my wife's 9-to-5 job income. Okay, so in order to do that, right, there's a variety of ways to do that too. But on a consistent basis, what you might want to do is to have buy and hold properties to replace your monthly income. How are you going to do that? Well, we here at Step 2 Empire suggest that you acquire things creatively and then you sell them off on contract for deeds, or you can do a wrap mortgage or whatever, and then you get that monthly cash flow and not necessarily be a straight landlord, right? We have a twist on that. We have the creative twist on that. And so that certainly could be some of your goals that's in there. One of the students has a goal of having 50 transactions in 2025. What does that mean? What types of transactions? What do you want to focus on? So the focus on part we just wanted to talk about here is you have to take those goals, those big, hairy, audacious goals, and get them down to the point of giving you a roadmap, right? Remember, we like blueprints, right? We did a whole podcast on our REI blueprint. And so that's what we suggest you structure your goals to do, is to give you the blueprint for the year. Okay, so we suggest those being SMART. What does SMART mean? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. There you have it. SMART goals. Right. This is kind of a teaching podcast. It's a little boring to start the year, but I appreciate you sticking in there. This is key though. This takes the goal from being in your mind to down on paper to what actions, right? So eventually we're going to get to what actions do I need to take in order to meet that goal. Okay, so that's why it's specific, needs to be measurable. When am I going to do that? So I want to do a goal by March 31st, the end of first quarter 2025. Like for instance, another business goal that I have is to get two more renovation properties under contract, okay, and in process by the end of first quarter. Okay, so that's achievable, right? I made it SMART. I gave it a number, I gave it a timeline, and it's relevant because it's getting me to an end business goal, right? Okay. And then here's the other thing I like too is to take those goals and to actually put them on a card. Here's my little card. Actually, borrowed that from a different guru guy. Paul Mohani is his name from Rethink. Does that, and this is a great thing just to have around. I have mine. Again, I need to update mine for 2025 year too, but I have mine sitting over here, actually behind me. Um, as well. And you can laminate this, you can make it double sided and take it with you, put it in your car, do whatever you want to do to keep them in front of you. Because what you focus on multiplies. What you focus on multiplies. It took me so long, like I thought that was a bunch of bullshit for I don't know how long, but it really is true. What you focus on multiplies. Whether it's positive or negative, what you focus on multiplies. It really does. So just keep that in mind. So if you want to stay on track, it's just little things to help you stay on track. Okay. And then you can see here that we have the all the tools you need to turn your BHAGs into SMART goals. And what does all that look like? I'm sorry, I'm going to scroll down here. There's some examples here at the very end. Okay. So I just want to take a look at this. So we had a big, hairy, audacious goal. I will create $20,000 per month net cash flow from my real estate investing business. Okay. If you are, so let's talk about that for a second, right? That's a big, hairy, audacious goal, $20,000 a month. So if roughly you are, let's say that your business model, right, your real estate investing piece is that you're a buy and hold investor, whether that's rental properties or you're seller financing them on the backside using our system, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. How many houses is that? Right. I'm the numbers guy. Like I'm the numbers data guy too. So if I want to get to $20,000 a month, reasonably speaking, right, and I'm doing it with single family properties or individual properties, like I'm acquiring them one at a time. Okay, which is typically what most people do, especially when they're starting. How many properties is that? So if I have, let's say I can cash flow $500, net cash flow $500 a month. That's my profit every month from these buy and hold properties I can get. Maybe one's 400, maybe one's 600, right? So the average is 500. So if I get $500 a month cash flow, how many do I need to get 20,000? Right? Well, I need 10. So just keeping the number simple. So if I get 10 at 500 each, I'm 5,000. Right? So now I can break that down in 5,000 increments. Okay, I'm going to need to focus on getting 10, and that's going to get me 5,000 a month. Then I'm going to get another 10 for another 5,000 a month. So now I have 20, but I'm only at 20,000. So you can see I'm going to need 40 properties, roughly speaking, 40 properties to get to that $20,000, keeping that $500 a month as a rule in net cash flow. Okay. So that's why we go through these exercises and just say, okay, that's a lofty goal. How can I get there? Do I have the skills? Do I have the means? How am I acquiring the properties? Am I acquiring them creatively? Am I getting private money? Am I getting DSCR loans? Am I getting regular traditional loans? Am I doing commercial loans? How am I getting these properties? And how much can I handle that? Especially if I'm still working my 9-to-5 job, how can I handle that? Right? What does that look like? Okay. So that's why we put these exercises in here, right? To very specifically, as you can see, right? S for specific, very specifically go over those sorts of things. Okay. Right. So just sticking on this example here, I like to just run through that. Again, I know it's not very sexy or whatever, but I think it's important. And it's more important than you think it is. And it was more important than I thought it was for years and years. I can't stress how making yourself go through these exercises and saying, I'm going to start with my big vision. And then how am I going to get there? Right? What do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? And how am I going to get there? and what time frame is reasonable for me to do that. Okay, so again, here we have a set number, right? My big hairy audacious goal, the BHAG. I have $20,000 a month cash flow in my real estate business. Okay, so it's already a specific amount, right? And so it's measurable. How can I measure? I will track my net income each month as the key metric. As I just mentioned too, okay, I'm going to focus on acquiring $500 properties that give me $500 a month profit, net cash flow. Okay, and then I'm going to build from there. Okay, so that's how I'm going to measure it. Do I have the skills to achieve the goal? If I can't, can I tame them? What's the motivation for this goal? Well, the motivation for this goal is to get the hell out of working for the man. That's obvious. Or get your spouse out of working for the man, or to be, debt free and have the freedom to go do what you want when you want. Right? That's really what freedom is that you can go do what you want when you want to. That's freedom. Okay. So, and when you're going through this, you need to be honest with yourself, right? So we're going to take that big, hairy, audacious goal, and now we're going to sing the nuts and bolts, and you have to have the honest conversation with yourself, or maybe you're doing it with your business partner or your wife. You have to have that honest conversation to say, okay, do I know enough about real estate? Am I savvy enough? Can I get 40 buy and hold properties to get to my $20,000 a month? Right? Remember, we want $20,000 a month cash flow. Can I get my 40 properties at $500 a month? Like, do I have the skills for that? Do I have the bandwidth for that? Do I have the time for that? Who's going to be part of that? Okay, that's the honest conversation you need to have. That the R is relevant. In other words, why do I want to do that? This one's, again, kind of obvious, as we talked about, to get the hell out of working for the man. Okay, replace your W-2 income. And then what is the timeline? What is the timeline to do that? And again, this is another realistic conversation you need to have. So how long is it going to take to acquire 40 properties? Can you do it in 12 months? Sure. Is it likely, especially if you're working a 9-to-5 W-2 job? Probably not. Okay, so how do you want that to look? And here's where that stair step comes into play. Here's how I do that, right? So we're just going to say, right, so in the first 12 months, by the end of the first 12 months, we're going to set a goal that we want $2,500. Remember, I'm looking to get $500 a month in net cash flow, right? So now I'm going to do 5 properties. I'm going to do 5 properties in 12 months. So one every other month, basically, right? Maybe I get to 6 and I exceed my goal. And I do one every other month. Now I'm well on my way, right? Can I do all 40 in 1 year? Sure, but that's going to be a full-time job for you. Like, let's just be honest, that's going to be a full-time job. So you might want to stair step it away. So you can see in the example here, we stair stepped it out 3 years. Okay? And then here is just the date, right? And when we originally did this here, 2025 was that 3-year out period, which now we're in 2025. Right? Okay, so just a set example there that I wanted to show you. And again, we just wanted to take some time to talk about the goals today. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen for just a second. There we go. And I'm going to put back up the mindset. So if you like the way this was set up, that you happen to see the podcast or you see it on the recording, and you like this and you just want to grab that, man, it's a really cheap, it's $35 to set some of your core values and your goals for the year. Okay. So in 2024, if you had some goals in mind, right, but maybe you didn't write them down, but you had some goals in mind, both personal, professional, whatever that looked like. And you can honestly say, okay, what were your goals and did you achieve them? And the answer is no. Do something different in 2025, right? Do something different. Also, too, get a focus. So in 2025, level up is my phrase. Some words, phrases. Level up is my phrase. Like, we're going to look to level up things in 2025, right? Not only business-wise with Sub2 Empire, but also personally, we're going to level up, right? So that's what we wanted to talk a little bit about today. And let me turn that back off. All right. And so now we're also at the beginning of 2025 here. This one's going to be a little shorter podcast, right? Because it's just really focusing on your goals, or we suggest you focus on your goals going into 2025. Start with your personal, move to your business, start with the big, hairy, audacious goals, move to, and then turn them smart so you can make a stepwise plan and a timeline to get those achieved. That's how that seems to be what works for us. Remember, your goals needs to work for you, whatever works for you. Some people put all the goals down in the big planner. Like, I have a planner. One of my goals, one of my personal goals this year is to actually use the planner. It's actually been, I shit you not, it's been sitting here for this particular planner. It's a very detail-oriented planner, which actually takes some time and effort every day. It's been sitting here for 3 years, been sitting right in front of me, literally right in front of me. Like, I don't admit that often. It's been sitting right in front of me for 3 years, and I haven't used it. Now, I've done goals and I made some goals, but I just haven't used the planner specifically. But I started using it specifically on January 1st, so we're 3 days in, and it's going to become a habit, right? We want it to become a habit. So habits take over 60 days, 66, 67 days to create, not 21. Somebody tells you you can make a habit in 21 days, then they don't know what they're talking about. That's nonsense. To change your behavior, it takes more than 21 days. Now, you might be able to establish a routine in 21 days. For instance, I'm going to work out in the morning. I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to work out in the morning before I go to my regular job, before I do my daily activities, right? So that's a routine. I've done that for 21 days. That's a routine, right? But a habit, really fixing it in place, takes like 67 days. So one of the things I would recommend on your personal goals is, how are you going to fix things in place day to day? So one of the things I like to ask myself, especially as it relates to the business, because I have lots of different business interests. I'm a serial entrepreneur, like real estate is one of them. But I also have health and wellness. As I mentioned, I have my personal health goals. So I'm really into health and wellness and all of that. And so I like to keep trends, like, what am I going to do today that gets me closer to my goal? So for instance, on my personal fitness goal, like, I want to maintain my weight 160 pounds or less, right? And so on a day-to-day basis, how do I achieve that? I exercise. I try to eat healthy, okay? I don't itemize. I don't count my calories. I've done that before. I don't count my calories. I don't itemize it. But what am I going to do to get there? And when I say, all right, I don't feel like working out today, if I skip that workout, is that getting me closer or farther away from achieving my goal? And then I ask those same questions regardless of the situation. So if I do this real estate deal, or if I get into this real estate deal, or if I acquire this property, what's my exit strategy? And is that net result getting me closer to my end goals or farther away? So what do I mean by that? Let me just take a step back from this. So here in 2025, we have, as many of you may know or follow Sub2 Empire, I personally, my wife and I personally, have property being built. It's actually under construction, condos in Los Cabos, Mexico. Okay, 2 different parts of Los Cabos, Mexico. And so we're going to need to get down there this year and close on all those and take possession and all of those sorts of things. Okay, so in order to do that, there's a final process that has to happen, which requires we have to furnish the places. And so how am I going to do that? In other words, And let's just say it's going to cost me $25,000 to furnish the property, right? Put furniture in there, all that stuff to furnish the property. And where is that money coming from? How am I going to earn that money? Right? I don't want to take it out of the savings. I don't want to take it out of the other investments that I have. I want to earn that money. How am I going to earn that money? Okay. So one of the ways to earn that money is to do a flip property. Okay. And then I can get that 25,000 to 30,000 to 40, $50,000 hopefully of profit from the flip property, or we partner a lot on stuff too. So whatever my share of that is. And so that's one of the reasons why I mentioned I have a business goal of 2 flip properties, 2 rehab properties under contract underway by March 31st, because then I want to be able to take that money and send it to meet this other goal of staying in our condos, of getting our condos and staying in there. Okay. So I asked myself the question then, okay, is getting this place under contract, or is doing this property, is doing this getting me closer to my goals? Okay. And then of course I asked that question a different way too, because as I mentioned, I want to replace my wife's income, my wife's W-2 income, or 1099 miscellaneous income, as the case may be. Want to replace that too. So now we've got to do buy and hold properties to level that up, or to create cash flow in different areas of interest for us too, whether it's with real estate, whether it's with health and wellness, whatever that looks like, is we want to create the cash flow that replaces that in the end. So when I set up when I look at my weekly planning and my daily planning, it's like, what activities do I need to do that is going to get me closer to those goals? And if it doesn't get me closer to the goals, then sometimes I have to have a conversation with myself about, why am I doing this? Maybe I need to stop doing this, right? Maybe I need to get an assistant that does that, like transactional stuff. Like I was just talking with one of our coaching students about that yesterday. Just like, instead of me keeping all the numbers and the books and the spreadsheets and all that stuff, is to like hand that off to the bookkeeper with my accountant. Okay, just as an example. Now I've actually tried that in real life a couple of different times, and it's not been overly successful. So it actually took me more time to explain to the bookkeeper what the transactions were that they were seeing, and so then she could book them properly, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if I just took it and put it in the spreadsheet and kept it myself. But those are the things that I'm going to be asking myself a lot, is I want to level up, and what activities am I doing on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis that's getting me closer to those goals. Okay. So again, I'm just going to toss up in here real quick. Here is our goals. We call it the foundation of success, right? And as we've mentioned too, it's more important than you think it is. A lot of people poo-poo this or this, or maybe they'll scribble a few things down in their planner if they still keep a written planner, or maybe type it into their to the calendar and then never look at it again. All right, so we want to change that mindset. All right, and so hopefully today, and again, this is a little shorter podcast today too. We're kind of at the end. We just wanted to focus on this for today. But please, by all means, if you're watching this later, if you want to see, put some topics in the comments, whatever social media platform you happen to be watching this in. If you want to put topics that you'd like to see us cover for 2025, please do that. We've got a list of stuff that we're going to get into, and we're going to get back more into the real estate stuff. We're going to get some more guest speakers on. We're going to have some planning for that moving forward too. Some maybe big, hairy, audacious guest speakers too, like well-known nationally people, right? Level up. And remember, we want to get people on here too. There's plenty of deals for everybody. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't share knowledge and success more freely among others, and not keep it in there. So that's what we're trying to do here at Sub2 Empire. And again, so this was a little pontification. We went a little off the regular list for today, but I really appreciate you staying with me. Hopefully, we'll get Mr. Kaufman feeling better next week, and we'll hit it hard for you on next week's podcast. Other than that, have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you more and more in the new year.